Welcome to the show, everyone. We've been kind of having a good time in here before the show starts right now. We're networking with everybody out there. It's a beautiful day. I can't even believe it's almost the end of the year. My first guest has been on with me several times. I have with me Stephanie Maloney, and she's the owner of Premier Estate Planning. And before we were talking about animals, my doggies having an issue. Sure, dogs have had issues. We all have had animal issues, right? But how that goes hand in hand with estate planning, and I want to talk a little about that. So, welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and a little bit about what makes you so different.
Well, hello, Stephanie Maloney with Premier Estate Planning. I'm a little cold today, so my throat's a little froggy, so excuse me. Let's see, gosh, we're a family business, and a big message that I want to get out about our business is that we're a document preparer firm. So we're monitored by the Arizona Supreme Court to prepare estate planning and asset protection documents for the public. And many people don't realize that this program exists. It's been around since 2003, and it allows people to get these services done at a much more affordable price point. And I think if more people realize that the program existed, they may not be so apprehensive to, they take the first step and get some education. Because, they're just thinking, oh, it's going to be so intimidating. We have to hire an attorney. I don't know what to ask.
It's cost a lot of
money. It's
money.
so expensive, and so people just don't even start investigating. Or if they do, of course, just like everything else, when you start Googling, there's so much information.
Right.
And it's confusing, and you just don't know where to go, so people get paralyzed. And I really want people to understand this program is awesome. Not all document preparers are the same, and I think you should make sure that you hire one that specializes in estate planning. And we have been operating in the Valley since '95. And we actually do have an attorney on staff. He's been with us since then. And even though we're under this Arizona Supreme Court banner of the Arizona Certified Legal Document Program, he still prepares our in-state documents. And we have several preparers that do out-of-state work for us. So
that's awesome that you have that. So no matter what, you have it all covered.
Yes, we can handle special needs planning. We can handle some pretty advanced estate planning.
Now, and here's the thing: when you work with people, one of the things that you also, as a person, what you've done with it to make you different is that you are a successor education. You do that education for people. Now, I want you to explain that, because listen up, everyone. This is super important what you're hearing here, because not everybody does what you do, and the fact that you go along with them practically all the way through the end. I mean, even further. This is so cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, so many years ago, we, our initial clients that we had in the Valley, we didn't keep track of them as we do now. We didn't have email addresses or cell phone numbers. And so we lost touch with a lot of those people. But some of those people came back into our lives, unfortunately, after they had gone somewhere else to get some help after losing a spouse or various things that happened, and they were really taken advantage of. Just way overcharged for work that really didn't need to be done. And I just felt, at the time, if we had done a better job, we explain things, and it's a big process when you're going through it, so it's overwhelming. But if we'd done a better job doing success or education, and what does that entail? We're giving your people that you choose. When you do estate planning documents, one of the things you're choosing is, if I can't run my show anymore, who's going to do it for me? We all kill ourselves off in our examples, but we have a really good chance of becoming incapacitated. And suddenly now you can't operate your life, and someone has to step in. And if you're fortunate enough to already have documents in place, and your person knows about them, once they had success or education, it could have been years earlier. They're going to remember certain things from that meeting that are important, and hopefully will keep them from getting taken advantage of.
Well, and also being more prepared. One of the things that I know is that, and I dealt with it. I know when my father passed, and I've said this before. Honestly, my dad, who thought he had it all covered, still didn't have it all covered.
Yeah.
And that's what's really sad. And you have to make sure that you take out your documents, take a look at them over and over and over again. Don't just do it one time. And make sure that, like you just mentioned something there about me and my show. What happens if something? Who's going to take over? It's got to be someone special. So you guys got to wait now. But honestly, these are things that what you do is you look at the whole the whole picture, and you kind of open up the screen even further.
Yeah, I try to get people to be it's getting better, but generations past, it's really been closed mouthed about our estate planning. Even when people did have documents, they didn't want to talk about it. It's conjuring up death, and who wants to think about that? And then they have this impression that all of us greedy children are out here just waiting to see what we're going to get from mom and dad. And when most children in their 50s, up and down from there, are asking their parents, do you have documents? It's not about what am I getting when you're gone. It's about I want to respect what you want done medically and financially. And if we don't have a conversation before the house is on fire, I'm not going to know.
I've said this with you on the air before. If Amazon is going to ask you for your credentials before you even are ordering or being able to talk to them, how hard do you think it's going to be for them to get your medical documents and all that kind of stuff? Now, I just thought of something as because we were talking about dogs and pets and all that kind of stuff, and I have no idea. So you can tell me whether a pet is the same kind of thing. They might have rules with them too when it comes to, I know with people and the HIPAA laws and all that. I don't know if it's the same with animals. How important is it to include your animals? Not just say if you want to, but is it important to do?
Yeah, well, certain types of animals require a lot of money to care for. I deal with a lot of people in the equestrian world. Horses are very expensive, even if it's just a fun hobby horse you have that you ride occasionally. They cost money to care for, to feed, to house. And you can't just, it's not like a cat, here, take my cat. That might be easy, if you can't keep them, you can find somewhere. But a horse is a big, that's a huge deal. So when people are dealing, and when they start thinking about that, that's when they're like, holy cow, yeah, who's going to take care of my horse?
You mentioned that just now. It wasn't a horse. The dog might have been as big as a horse, but the dog that someone passed away, I mean, honestly, so suddenly, it was out of the blue. Perfect example of this, where she didn't have anything. And when I say she didn't have any papers, documents done, and guess what? They fought over who was going to take the dog. And there goes a perfect example of that.
Kind of guardianship of the animal, because sometimes that's what people have if they don't have children, that they have pets.
Sure.
And you have agreements and things that go along with that, and they share custody essentially. But usually when we're doing the estate planning, it's more so about the cost, and you don't want to burden the person who says, sure, absolutely, I'll take your dogs. Mm-hmm. Well, usually people will set aside just a little bit of money to make sure, for the life of the animal they can be cared for, and it wouldn't be a burden to the person that's being so kind to say, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it.
So important for the information that people hear on the show.
I wanted to say something about successor education too. I don't think I mentioned it.
Quickly.
It's not about what you have in the process. We're just talking in general terms. So people don't need to be worried that I'm going to talk about what your assets are. It's just about the process that happens.
And by the way, when we come back, we're going to talk further about that, because you do take them all the way through it, because it's not just about what they learn about the process, but then once that process happens, you're also there for them, which is also awesome. No one else does anything like that. Her phone number to call is 602-371-8898. You can check her out on her website. It's premieraz.net. They're nationwide, and believe me when I tell you, she knows her stuff. They have the big guns behind them in case, even if you need that as well. Again, 602-371-8898. Hang tight, we'll be back in just a minute. What else do you want to talk about?
Or notarized. And they never had the conversation about how do you get into my house. His dog was in his house for 2 weeks, unattended, and thank God he was a big dog, so he could go to the toilet.
Yes.
And that man is never going to probably recover and be able to go back into his life. He's in Texas in a rehab, and his friend that he named, she had to get an attorney. She's putting all of this bill for herself as good as she can.
I'll tell you something. That's exactly what happened with my dad. He had a paper that he wrote. He had it, and my brother's got away with basically murder because he didn't have it notarized. So it meant nothing. Because anybody could type a and
Well, she didn't get the letter of competency. See, when people find a trust, it's going to be because they say that person wasn't competent or they were
but
coerced.
you just said something else that
We asked them to write a letter to the person they're disinheriting that they will only get if they have the power.
just
So it would only be like with your family.
I understand, but I want you to talk about it. That's neat that you do that.
Because that's what they'll try to fight. Because that person is legitimately feeling they have a grievance. They're going to have to hire their own attorney. And as a successor, I would say, well, I understand you're upset. I didn't put these rules in place. Dad did, Mom did. But here's a letter from Mom and Dad. And here's letters from their doctor for 5 years in a row saying we're
And
not.
notarized. That's what makes it different.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we would have needed.
Well, and it's amazing what can tear apart families.
Oh, my brother, well,
There's tons of money, and they're fighting over a desk that weren't used.
oh, I know. So sad.
And now we're getting together, and we have talked for 15 years. What? Here we go.
So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Stephanie Maloney, and she's the owner of Premier Estate Planning. Stephanie is a successor educator, which also, this is well, you're a firm that does document preparing, but you have that attorney right there in their office. They've been doing it since
95 years.
1995.
Came from Iowa, but we started here in 95.
Wow. And I mean, so they've been around for a long time. You can tell your passion with it. And you have a story. I want you to talk about your story, because then I want to get this out of
To do something. And they start the process, and when they realize that, gosh, I have to name somebody to step into my life if I can't serve. Again, we kill ourselves off in our story. We can't imagine being disabled and incapacitated, not functioning, but it happens. With our modern medicine, we have a really good chance of that happening. And now they have to name a person that's going to step in, that they trust, that's going to manage their life for them on their behalf, and hopefully do the right things. Because once they're in charge, they are you, essentially. So when people start thinking about it, it's paralyzing. It keeps them from doing sometimes. But I have a friend who, they're both single in their 60s, and he last year had asked her, will you be my person? I need to do my documents. He has no children. And she said, absolutely. Never talked about it again. And then about a month ago, she gets a phone call, and he's in an accident at work 2 weeks earlier. So again, he's not married to this lady. They're just really good friends. I'm not even sure how they ended up finding her. So, they're like, told her what was going on. He's in the hospital. He cracked his skull. He's not communicative. She ends up having to break into his home, essentially, because they never talked about, how do I get into your house?
I know somebody else same thing happened.
And so she gets in. She does find paperwork that she's never seen. Like, he talked about it, but she never saw it. He didn't get it witnessed or notarized. He probably got it off of legal Zoom and went, oh, I have to have witnesses and a notary. I'll do that next weekend. His paperwork was from August of last year, 19. So he had it. He just, because she is the person in it, but she's had to get her own attorney because it's not valid paperwork.
I say this. There's documents, and then there's documents that work. Please don't put your head in the sand with this, because once you do it, once you start, and you're not over, just because you've done it, it doesn't mean that it's over. But the fact that you have done the important steps, the most important document is probably what?
I think the most important documents are the powers of attorney for healthcare and medical. Right. Every 18 and up-year-old person needs those documents. It doesn't matter about
today's age.
asset level or anything.
Right.
My son was 18 in high school. He's an adult, according to the law.
Right, exactly.
And that's what we have to go by. You're like, the kid can't brush his teeth without me telling him that he's an adult.
But it is true. Yeah. I mean, we have old adults. I mean, old children. I should say it that way. I mean, the bottom line is that we want to make sure that we can, especially, listen, we're all dealing with this year. A lot of people, a lot of scary things have been happening. It might have made you think a little bit about it. But still, we all do the same thing. Oh, yeah, I got to do that, right?
Oh,
still don't do it.
everybody that sits with me, I don't care how old they are. Oh, we've been needing to do this.
Yeah.
And I just tell people, hey, you're here now.
Right.
You can't go back and relive yesterday. You made it this far. Everything's been good, so let's get it taken care of. So now
602-371-8898. The website is premieraz.net. Nationwide. She does free consultations. The best thing that you could do for yourself today, I mean, listen, this is the holidays. I'm going to say the best thing that you can do for yourself right now is to have that conversation with Stephanie and just sit down and find out where you stand, what's going on, and she'll help you through the process. Not only that, have everybody sit down together. I think the successor education is so wonderful that you do that, but also for the families, please listen to me so much. I know I went through this. That it wasn't a conversation we could have in our house, right? And nobody wants to really have it, but it's so important once you have done this to sit down and still talk about it. The other thing that I about that I don't know if we've ever talked about before, which is when somebody wants to disinherit.
It's never any of our business. But we learned this from an attorney years ago. He had his clients do this, so we've suggested it ever since. And when someone is making that decision to disinherit, it's never an easy choice. They labor over it. But when they do, especially if they have a revocable trust, they're challenging to fight. But what they're going to try to fight, if the person down the road now that you're gone, they're like, oh, Mom and I were getting along great. She said she was going to change the documents. There's no way she's disinheriting me. And if I'm the one that's doing the work, if I had a letter that my parent wrote around the time they did that said, this is why I made this decision and this was all my choice and nobody influenced me. And then also to get letters from your doctor. You ask your doctor, am I competent to make decisions? Can you please put that on your letterhead? And you keep those with your documents so that if later down the road, now we haven't changed and this person's very upset, if they want to fight, they're going to have to get an attorney. And if I'm the successor, I can just simply give them that information and say, you're going to want to give this to your attorney because they're going to want to consider this before they take your case.
But it all does need to be notarized, and that's kind of where you come in. Well, I could say that I only wish I had that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this even further. I believe, as I'm sitting here listening to you, that everybody should write that letter. A letter that just says, please don't fight,
Oh, yeah. Or if they're
that?
doing an unequal distribution, we encourage a letter or a video just explaining why. Usually they know, this child's been loaned hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
This kid's never needed a dime.
That's the exact the letter that my father typed out, emailed it, and also mailed it. That said that exact same thing, that Carol didn't borrow, blah, 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 whatever. But guess what? Because it wasn't notarized, it could have gone from any computer, it could have been written by anybody, and it could have been signed by anybody.
Yeah.
And so I was the one that got hurt.
Yeah, and we always encourage handwriting, because again, anybody can type. You're just trying to make things easier for your successors that are left behind, because a lot of times those people are very upset.
And there's a lot of good reasons to do things just because of the kind of world that we live in right now, too. We live in a different type of a world, but also going backwards a little bit, like you said, the old-fashioned way, written out, not just necessary, but also if you're going to do a video, how easy is it today to do?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that all of this is so much easier than it was so many years ago. So why do we all still put our heads in the sand with it? I don't understand.
Yeah. And I was going to say earlier, you made a comment about the right documents. That gentleman, if he had followed through on his legal Zoom documents, they would have been fine. It's the follow through, doing the work, putting assets into the trust. He didn't.
But I'm going to say this about LegalZoom and all that kind of stuff. Again, they're going to tell you they're not attorneys or anything like that, and you can make some big mistakes. This is why it's important to talk to somebody right here that you can talk to.
Yeah.
You've been doing this since 1995 here in Arizona, and she's someone that you can have a conversation with, that she teaches, will be with you along the way, the entire process, not just getting these things done and then of course your estate plan's all put together, then even more so.
Well, I was going to say, I like people not to get dust on their trust. Because, you do it and you're like, oh, finally we got it done. And you put it up on the shelf and you're kind of like, check that box. And you don't look at it. And a lot of people do that. But what I like to encourage my clients to do is once a year, we're coming up on January. Everything that has to do with your financial and medical life goes in this book. Who do you have auto insurance through? Who's your health insurance provider? Who do you have long-term care? I just had a family who found out after their parents were gone, they both had long-term care they could have used. You can't go back and make a claim after they're gone,
Mm-hmm.
but because the parents were too far gone at the point that the kids got involved, they had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
$300,000
Wow.
went away from the family because they didn't know. So if you organize your book in a fashion that, something abruptly happens, you can grab this book, because if they're incapacitated, you have to keep doing the things they're supposed to be doing, paying your medical premiums, paying for your life insurance. You can't let that stuff lapse.
No.
So you want to make it as easy as you can, and it also helps you, it's your plan, to just look at it and
And
make sure it's
that's where
fresh
you
every
come
year.
in, though. That's where you come in, because you're there to kind of remind people when you have it. And everybody has a story. It's got to be different for everyone. No estate plan is going to be the same for anybody,
Nope.
for sure. So when they sit down and talk to you, you can kind of go over those things with them and tell them, look, don't forget this. Let's put that in there. And you start to learn more about them. And even as it goes on, maybe something new comes up, and you say, let's make sure that's in there.
Right.
That's where someone like you comes around. Now, the phone number again to call her direct at 602-371-8898, premieraz.net, nationwide. She does free consultations. I believe that everybody should sit down and just speak to her. This is a document prepare company. It's different, but you also have a firm, so you also have an attorney there that does also look at all of the paperwork as well. So that makes them even more different. You don't just want to go to anyone. You want to go to someone that does specialize in estate planning. That's very important too. Again, 602-371-8898. We only have less than a minute. I also want to say this. I know it's the end of the year, guys, and Merry Christmas and happy
Merry Christmas.
the holidays to you too. But more than anything, what a great time right now. Anyone out there that's like me, single, please do it. Do it for your kids. Do it anybody. I don't care what, if you just listening to this, and if I can get to your head right now, make that phone call and have that conversation for you. You'll feel better afterwards. 602-371-8898.
Bye-bye.